Hello and welcome to Coding with Jess, where you code along with me while I build a thing. So it's been a few months since I live streamed, and we're just going to pretend that didn't happen and jump right back into weekly live streams. The longest journey begins with a single step, so here we go. But for those of you who have forgotten what Coding with Jess is, I mean, heck, maybe even I've forgotten. Just a reminder, this is going to be an actual work session where I'll work on a project for 2 hours talking out loud while I do so. And I'm not going to spare you the gory details. If I get stuck, well, then we get stuck and we'll work through it. And every 25 minutes or so, I'll take a 5-minute break to clear my head, get some fresh air. So 4 work blocks, 25 minutes long, 5-minute breaks in between equals about a 2-hour session. And finally, I do watch the YouTube chat during the session, so if you want to ask a question or just say hi, as Million Grad has already done, go for it. I enjoy the energy that I get from folks following along, which is why I do this live instead of recording it and posting it later. So with all that out of the way, I am pretty excited for today's build for a few reasons. One, a few years ago, at the very beginning of Coding with Jess, I built a Spotify new music notifier system. I'm not sure why it needs scary air quotes, but it does, in Ruby on Rails. And it was really fun working on that. Basically week after week, I would just like come in, add a feature, figure out what was working, that kind of stuff. I think I did, I don't know, maybe 9, 10, 11 sessions. I have a playlist on my YouTube channel or something where you can kind of like see all those sessions, but this was several years ago. One thing that was fun about it is I was building something I was actually going to use. I was enjoying like the technologies I was using at the time, Ruby, Rails, kind of stuff that I was familiar with. Today I'll be scratching my own itch again, and this time building a real app, not just a prototype. I've been doing a lot of prototype building over the last year, so this is going to be kind of fun building something I'm planning to actually use. And then I'm also excited about the tools that I get to use today. Guys, a lot has changed in the past 2 years since I was writing the Spotify new music notifier. I am regularly coding with Copilot and a ChatGPT window open. I've moved from Ruby and Rails to TypeScript and Svelte. Browsers have gotten a lot better. WASM is a thing. Rust has taken off. Like, it's a friggin' different world, and it's really exciting. And so the tools that I'll be using today will be a little bit different. I'm actually going to have a ChatGPT window up and going. And one other major difference today is one of the most exciting trends I'm in the near future is embodied in this platform called Replit. And we'll be trying to use Replit today to build this production application. Why I'm excited about Replit? Well, Replit is an entire environment for building software. It reminds me of the good old days of Heroku Garden, before Heroku was just a deployment center, when it was actually a full in-browser IDE database, the whole deal. Google it, it was a thing. But the Replit has that same feel. It's got an editor, a console, a database, a deployment system, and you can build and deploy an app entirely in the browser. There's several platforms out there like this. Replit's one of them, StackBlitz, Code Sandbox. There's a lot of effort going in this direction, and I'm really curious how far we can go with this paradigm. But Replit has a couple of other things that I don't know of in other platforms. One, it enables real-time pair programming, which y'all know I love so much. Being able to welcome someone into your Replit and then pair programming with them in real time is super cool. But also Replit is making their own play to integrate AI, which we'll get to see how that works later today. Their little Ghostwriter project, we'll see how that compares to Copilot. I suspect it will be behind Copilot, given that Copilot had a significant head start, but we'll see how things go. And also Replit has this funny feature called Bounties, where you can actually pay other developers to build parts of your app. Curious to see how that integrates, and I'm hoping to find a reason to actually use that on this project. Pay someone else to build some of it. So anyway, I should say at the beginning that I am not using Replit today because I am an expert in Replit. Quite the contrary. My goal is to learn to use Replit and push it as far as I can to build a real professional app. But up till now, I've only used Replit for like quick prototypes and stuff. And so we'll see. How close is it going to get to replacing my local development environment? Hey, I'm guessing not very, but let's find out. So now that you know the tools we're using, why we're using them, what are we actually building today? All right, so I have a simple problem that I have had for several years, which is when I'm brewing my coffee, I use a method called a pour over method. I use a Chemex, but it doesn't really matter. These methods all work the same, basically. You start something at some specific time. Let me like switch over here and show you guys a picture of my coffee setup. This is my coffee setup. You start pouring at a specific time, and then as you're pouring, you wait for some amount of time, and then you pour again at another time. You wait for some amount of time, you pour again at another time. Now, this is all pretty simple, and I like really simple solutions. Like, one of the things I love about this is that there's no real mechanical aid involved, but I do have to know when it's time to pour again. And the current method that I use is I just grab my phone, grab my phone, and I pull up the stopwatch, right? And start the stopwatch, and I wait for the first pour happens right away. You wait until 45 seconds, you pour again. You wait until 2 minutes, you pour again. And so on and so forth. And then at 3 minutes, you take the coffee off so that the coffee that's dripping in there isn't over brewed. It's a really simple problem, but most of the solutions to this problem are actually way more complicated than they need to be. You basically have like two choices. You use like a standard stopwatch, like what I'm using, and you have to remember to like pay attention when the brewing is happening. Or you can use like this full-fledged brew timer thing, and like all the apps that do this are like fairly complicated. And I've never been able to get one to really stick. And so again, this is like a super simple app. It basically has 3 features in it. Let me see, I think in my other note, I had my 3 features written out. Blub, 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 blub. Here we go. Yes, here we go. Pull this in. Features. And let's indent that. Boop, boop, there we go. So the features are pretty simple. One, we need to be able to set multiple timers that build on each other. So what I mean by build on each other is like when I say I'm setting a timer for I pour right away, so then I wait till 45 seconds to pour again. So I'd set a timer for 45 seconds that reminds me like, hey, at 45 seconds, it's time for that second pour. You poured the first time when you pressed the button, now pour again. So I need that. And then I need to say, okay, but a minute after that, that's right, the third pour happens at 1:45 for this particular method. It doesn't really matter, but I need 1 minute later, I need the timer to keep going, and 1 minute later to remind me again of like, hey, it's the third pour. So these timers are not independent timers. It's basically as the timer goes, it ticks or dings or something at specific points that reminds you to do the next thing. And importantly, the timer should keep going in case you forget, right? In case you like move on with something else and you come back and like, oh shoot, where are we? Because sometimes and that's the biggest problem that this is solving for me, is that I brew coffee in a very distracting environment. While I'm brewing coffee, I'm probably making breakfast for my 4 kids, kind of trying to plan out the day, dealing with sibling rivalry that's happening in my kitchen. It's a super distracting environment. So I need something that like reminds me with an audio chime of like, hey, it's that moment. I'm not sitting over that smelling the coffee, meditating on it as it's brewing, waiting for the next timer to go off. I mean, that is the case some mornings, but not all mornings. So anyway, so I need to be able to set multiple timers. Each timer, when it goes off, it needs to set like ding some audio. And then I want my device settings to be remembered. I don't need like logins and accounts. In fact, that's the exact opposite of what I want. I don't want like a super freak. I don't have to sign up for a SaaS product to like tick off my timer to brew my friggin' coffee. But I do want, when I open the web app again, to remember what I did last time, right? So we'll probably use something like local storage, IndexedDB, like that. That'll allow us to do that. And then the other thing that's really, really, really important is it needs to be very quick to go from like phone is locked and then unlocked and a timer is started, because the competition here is the actual phone integrated stopwatch app that has if I just swipe down, it has a button on the screen. So it needs to be like that fast. So we may, in order to get it to go really, really fast, we may want to like wrap this web app in a native wrapper, deploy to the App Store, set up a home screen shortcut. That might be a little bit much to try to do in Replit, but we'll start with the web app and then we'll kind of go from there. Alrighty, so let me I noticed that my audio is peaking, so I'm going to turn the gain down a tiny little bit. Close. There we go. Cool. All right. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive in and get started. And as I mentioned, we will be working in 25-minute blocks. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start on our first tomato, and we'll go ahead and get started. All right. So the first thing we'll be doing is opening a browser and going to Replit. Now, I already built, I haven't even started this project at all. So we're starting from scratch. But I've been doing several prototypes in SvelteKit recently. And so much so that I built my own SvelteKit starter called SK Starter, which I seriously should document. But here it is in case you want a SvelteKit starter. It's got things like Tailwind, TypeScript, and it has some other niceties built into it. Specifically, it has different code paths for different kinds of apps. So if you want like a front-end only app, which is what we'll be developing right now, that needs no back-end at all, then you can use that code path. If you want a, what is it? SSR. Anyway, the other thing I did in this app is I documented the different kinds of apps for myself so that I could remember what SSG is and SSR are and all of those silly new acronyms that we get in the front-end development space or in the web app space. All right, so I really want this. I want a version of this starter. So I think what I'm going to do is go to create a new repository from this template and then open that repository in Replit. I know that I could, and I have done this recently, I could come into Replit and go plus and search for templates. And there are two different SvelteKit templates. I played with both of them. If I remember correctly, both of them are like a full-featured SvelteKit app, and you end up having to rip out a lot of different stuff. And in any case, I have my preferences for the way I want my SvelteKit set up. And so I've already got those encoded in this repository I made, so I might as well use it. So we'll call this thing brew timer. Actually, I'm going to call it multi-timer. Because I realized like maybe there are other use cases. I don't know who needs a multi-timer like ding at specific points simple app, but like I do. So maybe more people use it. And the other thing is like I don't necessarily want this thing to be specific to coffee. So we'll just call it multi-timer. A timer web app or timer app that dings goes off at multiple points. And I know as soon as I do this live stream, somebody is going to tell me like, by the way, there already exists this amazing app that does exactly what you want. And that's fine if that exists. Be happy to know it. All right, so multi-timer, bump the screen size up a little bit in case you're watching on your phone. All right, there we go. There we got a repo now. So now I'm going to go plus import from GitHub. Let's see, clicky here. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. And language is Java or TypeScript. We don't have a template for your start with a blank REPL or choose a language below. Yeah, we'll do that. I'm fine with this being public. We're gonna go ahead and import. I have signed up for the Replit Pro account. I'm not exactly, I know that gives me access to Ghostwriter, which is I was most curious of playing around with, but I'm not sure what all the differences are between like the basic account and the pro account. So we'll see. All right, here we are, SvelteKit starter. Let's see, yes, npm runs dev is I think the command. Done. Let's see if that works. So it looks like I've got a console over here and a shell. Oh, okay, cool. What's the difference between console and shell? So shell is like in general, npm. Whoa, there's like get like a little audio bell when I hit backspace. And in the console. Weird. It's also slightly delayed, which is kind of strange. All right, shell. So yeah, this would be npm install, I suppose. Like, and command shift doesn't change. What changes between tabs? I don't know yet. Probably have to look that up. Let's see. So npm install worked, and the npm run dev, I believe, would be next, right? Yeah, got it right over here. Okay. Well, obviously that's not going to work because that's localhost 5173. Maybe I click run up here. Okay, there we go. Let me cancel this one then. Don't need to run that one. Alrighty. So I've got a console running with the app running here. I canceled that, and then I should be able to get like a preview. I would have thought preview would have jumped up automatically. Maybe if I click that, that's not going to work because that's a link to, and it's going to try to open it in a new browser. Let's see. So maybe adding a pane somehow. This is going to be fun, y'all. You're just going to like watch me stumble through using Replit for a little bit. Insert right. What do I want? I want a browser. Is what I want. Browser, web, preview. Let's see. Why did it not just start one automatically? I'm sure I did something silly that caused it to stop doing that. Let's try it again. Just run, start run, go. All right, we started. Not super helpful. Alrighty. So there's a list of things under the tools section over here that I've noticed when I was in here before, but I'm not seeing anything that is related to like actually viewing the app that is running. Oh, there we go. Open preview. Yeah, how did I miss that? Oh, that's the preview of the, that's not helpful. That's the preview of the markdown page. Open preview here. No. Seriously, yo, like this should be easier. Again, like I'm sure it's something I'm doing that's dumb here, but I'm not seeing how to open this. It says use -- host to expose. Run dev. Huh. Rather surprising. Let's see. These are all top level menus. Great. Oh, this thing is running. And how the heck do I view it? Let's see. Add pane, move focus. Well, tell you what, didn't expect to get stopped so quickly on this. Ghostwriter, threads, get, chat. All right, I didn't overlook anything here. To heck. Are we gonna end up Googling this? Because that feels really dumb. Web browser. Command K, run, which we've already done. Dude, seriously annoying. All right, there's my front end layouts. So I was mentioning before that I've actually got like a, that I encoded the different methods like front end only, full stack, static content only, here in this page svelte file. So what we're gonna have to do in just a second is come in and I think we'll be using this FE folder is the idea. But again, I feel silly that we're like stymied here. Let me go, let's bounce out to another Replit and see if it's more obvious in another Replit. Let me see if I have an older one that's going on. TypeScript Playground, run. Oh, this one I think is just a, this one is not actually a browser-based one at all. Ugh. All right, let's tell you what then. We will do a new one, and I will use their, wait, I think I remember, or maybe I deleted it. I definitely used the SvelteKit starter at some point and got frustrated with it and left to do it somewhere else. Yeah, let's just do a new one. Here we go, blank Replit, SvelteKit, TypeScript, go. And maybe it'll become obvious where the window is going to come up and like why it didn't come up just now. run. Here we go. Million Grad says a new one will work. Yeah, see, there it is. Like, how do I get a web view to pop up then? Okay, maybe I have to customize something in the settings or something. Let's see. All right, settings are down here. Like that, exactly. That's what we wanted to happen. Dadgummit. And let's see, Command K. Can I type web view? Oh my gosh, is it called web view? That'd be great. That would be fantastic. Let's go to my Replit. I'll leave that one open in another window. We'll pull this thing up. Command K. No, it's not there. Okay, I'm not crazy. There is no web view in this particular Replit. Why? I don't know. All right, clearly there's some weird setting that like this Replit is somehow identifying itself as like the kind that should have a web browser associated with it, a web view associated with it. Just digging through the files that are in here on the left. Seriously, yo, it's gonna be really darn similar. The Svelte config is exactly the same. The TS config is gonna be close and probably doesn't matter. It is exactly the same. Vite config is also the same. I would expect there to be like a meta in Replit config or something. There's a defined config for, oh, that's for ViTest. Yeah, that's not it either. That's me installing ViTest. Ay, ay, ay. There is a config directory, config store. Nope, that ain't helping me. All right, we'll hit run again, and maybe it'll just work this time. Another thing I'm going to try in just a second is just like close the sucker down and open it back up again. Well, we kind of just did that though. So stop, run. Maybe once it's running, I can go Command K web view. Nope. Replit web view not available, not working. Sounds like your org's firewall? No. Maybe we should just build a new one. Actually, Million Grad, you should just check my public Replit and see if it works. Let's see. We'll even do it's like the super dumb thing and go to Safari and open it in another browser and log in with GitHub, I believe is how I logged in before. Yep. Oh, gosh darn it. Let me see. Oh, I wonder if I can just like run it locally. Here. Run. Oh, that's just run though. That's not like the full edit capabilities. Sad panda. Well, it's running. Let's see what happens here. Nothing. Ugh. All right, we're gonna try again. Create a new one. Import from GitHub. Public multi-timer. We're gonna create this one as a Svelte kit. No, TypeScript's the language. Yeah, I was wondering if there was like TypeScript web or something like that that would get us what we want. But it looks like that would be it. I mean, we could do a blank Replit. Not a great first impression. So but again, I feel like I'm doing something dumb. All right, let's go through a couple more of these real quick. Can't see my web view. Maybe it thinks there's no web server, but there definitely is. All right, I'm going to close this REPL. Maybe I can edit it? No. What if I just delete it? Let's start over. That'll work. Yes, delete this REPL. And create a new REPL. This will be a, whoops, create REPL, import from GitHub, multi-timer, TypeScript. Repeating yourself and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity, but let's see if it works. Alrighty. Did it create or what? Oh, there we go. Multi-timer just didn't open. Whoa. Now it's crashing every time it tries to open the REPL. Ugh. Yep, it's like straight up crashing. I keep going back to open it and boom. Sweet. So deleting it and creating it again, not a good idea. All right, well, let's go over here to, we do have one that's working. It is a SvelteKit REPL. Let me see what all it has in here. Looks like it has just the basics. So we could go rip this out pretty quickly. Let's just retrofit this, this Replit since it's working, and get this thing going. All right. So stuff to rip out. Let me go through and delete this. Yep, delete those 4 files. Routes. Oh my gosh, well, looks like they did at least embed everything under different directories. I don't need the about section. I don't need that. Oh, so the way that Replit works, by the way, like everything's stored in source. Lib is where you store like your utility functions and stuff like that. And routes is where you store the page, and they have, or like, sorry, yeah, the individual pages. And the pages in Replit, like the routes are how you define the folders, and the files in the routes folder are how you actually define the different URLs for your app. So we'll have, I don't see app, there it is, app HTML and app DTSS. Those are like higher level things that wrap the entire app. Then we have a layout file, which will delete most of this. Looks like it is remembering my settings that I do want Vim mode, which is nice. We'll delete the header, probably, yeah. And import the styles. We will want those. I don't want, and then there's page.ts, which does like pre-renders. This is where we want to steal some settings from my other app that I already decided how we wanted to encode that this just needs to be a front-end only app. So we'll go through and grab those and copy those over. But we do want to delete everything on this page. And I thought that lang equals ts was supposed to be up here. Am I crazy? All right, so I can delete or close Safari, sorry, and close out those. Okay, so here is multi-timer over here. So in source routes, looks like I don't, oh, it is, it's under FE. That's where it is. Page.ts. Aha, here's my settings. So CSR is client-side rendering. It will generate HTML shim. SSR is server-side rendering, which we don't want to do. And pre-rendering is only available in production mode. All right, so we'll copy these 3 things over into page.ts because we want a front-end only app at this point. Like we don't need any of the other stuff that's happening. So there we go. Wow. When I saved that, it completely broke it. Okay. Saving the file is causing these comments to wrap, and deleting them? Like what, how in the world? Yep, it's trying to wrap these comments up to the next line, which removes the comment flag. Woof. Man, okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and delete those. Gosh, how does, oof. Oh, I wonder if that's to do with the prettier config maybe on this particular project. Although I didn't configure it. Like this is, you know, the vanilla TypeScript SvelteKit app. So let's go ahead and rename this thing too. We'll call it multi-timer. Public, always on. We'll configure that later when we're like ready to go to production, so to speak. All right, so I guess that changes the title automatically. There's no like save button. That's kind of surprising. Yeah, there you go. Boom, multi-timer. Reconnected. Changes will be synced when you're online. All right. I guess changing the name like that, aha, it updates my RepLco URL right over here. So, oh gosh, I'm gonna need to learn their keyboard shortcuts for change between tabs, but it's good enough for now. Web view, all right, cool. So back over here, we've been going through these files and ripping stuff out. Layout, we'll have a layout in it eventually, but right now it just imports the CSS. Page has this title to it, some meta stuff. We'll throw in some other meta stuff at some point, and then it's got these different sections here. Let's go ahead and rip all those out, including the CSS at the bottom, and we'll just say h1 hello world. Hello Wordle. Whoa, page lost focus for some reason. It's not showing our hello world. And that could be because I took out the slot, maybe? Yeah, there we go. That's what it was. So I took out the slot here in the layout file when I was deleting stuff. So slot is basically, it says like, layout is to like wrap all of your pages, and then slot is where all of like the sub pages will get inserted into that spot. So that's what was going on there. Okay, we can delete counter.svelte because we're not going to use that. Whoops. Wow, my muscle memory took over and I right clicked and delete. There we go. And then delete header svelte as well. Looks like there's a bunch of styles here in styles CSS. So let's go ahead and remove those. All right, now we have a vanilla app, and now we can kind of start building up from there. So there's a fave icon. I'll leave that there for now. Let's go ahead and install Tailwind. SvelteKit, Tailwind. Again, I would have loved to have been able to do this through my little template app, but Replit did not like it. npm install svelte. Yes, we've already done that. We've already created our project. All right, so we need Tailwind CSS, post CSS, and auto prefixer. Now, this is one thing that confuses me about Replit. Like, should I add the packages using their packages menu, or should I just go to the console and type it in? Does it matter? I guess let's try doing it at the console level because that's faster. And then do those show, does this list all packages, or is it just like a package browser? I would kind of expect my packages to be listed here and not just in package JSON. But okay, I guess it's just a package browser that lets you like quickly install things that way. All right, now we want to do an npx command, which is going to create this Tailwind config file for us. So let's go over to our shell again, paste that in. All right, the config file is right there. I haven't been committing any of these files to the changes here, but I guess that's one of the advantages of a Replit-like system, is that you don't have to, like, you're always, yeah, this thing doesn't have an initialized Git repository. Well, let's go as long as we can without one, and then see when we would need one. That's one of the advantages of a system like this, is that you don't have to have a Git repository. You can just store everything in their system, and that supposedly would allow you potentially some more advanced things that you couldn't do with Git. Well, we'll see. All right, so in our Svelte config, we need to turn on the pre-process for the sake of Tailwind. So the svelte config is here. Looks like Vite preprocess is already happening. I think we're good there. Yep, looks like that's already done. Then we configure our template paths in Tailwind config. So it's just this content line. Looks like our our session just ended. Let's do 5 minutes left just to finish our configuration of Tailwind, and then we'll take a 5-minute break. So back over here, grab that. All right, that is configured. We should have seen, oh, I don't remember if anything changes there. At least it's still rendering. And then in app CSS, we'll need to add the Tailwind CSS files. That is in source. There is no app CSS. All right. Add file, app CSS. And I wonder if app CSS needs to be referred to that. There it is. Import app CSS in layout. Okay. So instead of this, we'll have app. I got to go up a directory and get app CSS back, and then I'll go ahead and delete this styles CSS inside of routes. And then, yeah, we're okay. Everything is running. Looks like we're all good there. Let's test it out by adding some styles to our H1 in our page. Here it is. Weird. Don't hit Command S too quickly or it'll bark at you. All right, text 3 XL font bold. Actually, we should have seen this revert to. Let's try restarting the app, because we should have seen Hello World revert to like completely unstyled stuff. Whoa, there was like a red flash there. I guess that was weird. There we go. Cool. All right, see, it's underlined, it's bold, it's 3XL. All right, so Tailwind is up and running. So I guess that's as good a place as any to stop. And then we will take a quick 5-minute break, and I'll be back to work on session 2 now that we actually have a running app that we can tweak. All right, see you guys in 5. All right, folks, welcome back to Replit, to Coding with Jess, where we work on, we're now in session 2 of our 4 sessions today, where we're going to be building a simple multi-timer app using SpellKit and all of the tools that we can use. So let's, without further ado, let's dive right in. The last, you'll notice the last time that we were working on this, we got a running SpellKit app with Tailwind installed, up and going in Replit. So now we can actually make some simple changes to this. One of the things I did notice as I was going through, yeah, it's weird not having Copilot-like auto-completion in my actual files since I've been using that for so long. I was looking to see about shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts, to navigate between tabs, just because it drives me crazy not to be able to do that. Alt, left, and right is go forward, go back. I don't know what that means. Does that mean navigating in the actual thing? So I wanted to real quickly be able to navigate between tabs. Control P, go to line, navigating with the tab key. Navigate the entire page. No, that's not what I want to do. I don't see, off the top of my head, or like quickly glancing through here, I'm not seeing things that are about moving between different files quickly. That's kind of a bummer. I guess Command K would allow me to quickly, I guess I could navigate by just looking it up in Command K and let that be my navigation. I'm just so used to like spatially navigating between my tabs using Command Shift brackets, left bracket, right bracket. The affordances you miss out on when you're like in a browser and you have the browser that's overriding your keyboard shortcuts, and you have to like choose a new set. You can't use like the standard set of keyboard shortcuts, which is kind of frustrating. All right, so multi-timer. We were just saying that a couple things we want to be able to do with our multi-timer product is we want to be able to set multiple timers, and when a timer goes off, we want to play a sound. And a couple of important things about the timer. The way that I've been thinking about timers is I usually think about timers as counting up, so counting from a specific time. So unlike, at least when I'm doing coffee brewing and that kind of stuff. So as opposed to a timer that's counting down to a specific point and then it goes off and like lets you know that that point has happened, I think of them as counting up. So it kind of starts at 0, works its way, and at this time I'll pour this, and at this time I'll do that kind of thing. So we may want to switch that that paradigm, but for now let's just get a timer on the screen counting up and have it go like play a sound at a specific point. So that's kind of our, if you guys have coded along with me before, you know I kind of like to keep a scratch pad of things that I'm focusing on that keeps me from like getting distracted down rabbit holes and stuff like that. So we want to get a timer on the screen counting up from 0. Start the timer when we click a button. Stop the timer when we click another button. I'm not sure if that's an essential feature. We might want to cut it in the UI in the end, but let's do it for now. And then the last thing that we can get to maybe is like play a sound when the timer hits a certain point. That's going to be a tricky one now. I'm already thinking about how that might be implemented. All right, so over here, I mentioned that I've been doing a lot of coding with GPT-3 or ChatGPT, which I guess is GPT 3.5, unless you pay for Pro and GPT-4. So we'll actually use some today as well as we're writing some code here. So let me go ahead and like minimize this maybe and hide that drawer. Trying to make space for this over here when we've got a smaller screen. I've shrunk my screen down just for the sake of live streaming. Normally I have a little bit more space, and actually what I have set up in my home office is I actually have another monitor over here that has my ChatGPT window on it. And then my main monitor where I'm doing my coding is over there. So, all right. So one of the things, so funny, this cap message like changes all the time. Right now, GPT has a cap of 25 messages every 3 hours. I think when I first signed up, it was like 100 messages an hour. Then it was 25 messages an hour. Yeah, it's interesting. They're having to like lower the bounds. GPT 3.5 might be better at this because it's faster, but we'll try GPT-4 for. So I'm implementing a timer in JavaScript that counts up from 0. Can you give me an example of some CSS, some HTML and CSS and JavaScript, actually just HTML and JavaScript that will show a timer on a web page and start counting up when a button is pressed. So that prompt should give us, send. That prompt should give us a pretty good idea of the APIs around that people would be expected to use. I'm thinking this is probably like a set timeout thing, but we'll see how they configure it. While that's happening, we can come over and you'll notice that like GPT-4, if you haven't used GPT-4 yet, it is considerably slower than GPT 3.5. GPT 3.5 would have spit this out 3 or 4 times faster, but supposedly GPT-4 is more accurate. One of the things I have noticed, and just anecdotally using GPT-4 versus 3.5, is that 4 tends to be more complete in its answers. It will, like, for example, if you're doing something in JavaScript, it'll probably remind you to install these specific packages via npm, whereas 3.5 would just say, here's what the code looks like, and it kind of, you'd almost have to infer what npm packages are doing the thing. So let's look through the code that our little junior programmer here is recommending. So basically we're creating an element in the HTML called timer. It's right there. Where is ID timer? Get element by ID timer. Oh, there it is. It's a span right there. Okay, so there's that little thing is going to be our timer, this little span. There's going to be a start button right here. Timer interval is not specified. Seconds is set to 0. And then, yeah, there's the set interval. And so the set interval is just adding every 100 milliseconds 0.1 to the seconds variable. So it's ticking up by 1/10 of a second each time this executes. That seems like a reasonable time. I was just going to say, please note this timer may not be very accurate for long durations because set interval is not guaranteed to run at exact intervals. That was what I was thinking. You might want to use request animation frame or compare timestamps. I would actually like a slightly more accurate. Actually, do you think this would be accurate enough for timers that are only a few minutes long? How quickly would set interval drift? How much drift might we see in a typical 3 to 5 minute period? For some reason, return, command return, none of those are hitting return. Whatevs. Set interval function should be accurate enough for most use cases involving timers that are just a few minutes long. Yeah, you've already told me it doesn't run in exact intervals. This is interesting. We're asking it here to estimate drift here, which is, I don't know how I would even know this, but I'm sure many people have done assessments of set interval and that kind of thing. Oh, one of the things that I was going to mention about GPT-4 that's kind of annoying is pretty much every time you ask it another question about the code sample, even if the question does not dictate more code, it will reiterate almost the entire code example. And I don't know if you guys can see this. I can't see normally there's like a stop generating. Ah, there it is. Okay, stop generating. So yeah, sometimes you have to be like, okay, I'm good. But I guess in this like minimized version of the UI here, stop generating is not showing up. So yeah, I would have reiterated like the entire code example. I think we'll just go with the set interval approach for now, and we can always refactor it into a request animation frame approach later on. GPT thinks that in a typical 3 to 5 minute period, it may be a few milliseconds to a couple hundred milliseconds, I think that's fine. Coffee brewing isn't exactly that exact of a science anyway. So a couple hundred milliseconds is not going to be a big deal. Okay, so let's change this to multi-timer. All right, pull some of this. Let's see. Now, the way that it does the code is going to be, we're going to do it a little bit differently in SvelteKit than what, oh, well, heck, I might as well just say, can you give me this example in SvelteKit? Why not, right? Using TypeScript. Because I was just going to say, like, there's a couple differences in the way that SvelteKit does things in terms of wiring up the add event listeners and things like that. We could just use the vanilla JavaScript. There's nothing against doing that inside of a SvelteKit app, because SvelteKit apps are just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then SvelteKit adds some like wrappers around default HTML and JavaScript. But I would imagine, yeah, see, this is a great example of GPT-4 going further than I would like. Is it's going to tell me everything about building a SvelteKit app, which I'm like, I don't need all that. Well, I mean, I guess it just gave it to me in one bullet point. So here's our count up timer. Timer interval. Interesting. Is this a set interval approach? Yeah. Okay. But it's calculating elapsed time from date now. Okay, so this one instead, this is actually a slightly more accurate approach as it is. What this original approach that it was giving us, all it was doing was giving us doing the math every time set interval gets called, and what this version is doing is actually checking the clock. Every time the clock, every time set interval gets called, it makes sure that the elapsed time. It takes the elapsed time from the clock and then updates it. So you're still going to get a clock that only updates every 100 milliseconds. I think that's what that is. But it will update to the appropriate time each time. All right, cool. I mean, this isn't bad. It's a little verbose, but we can paste it in and then cut it down. So I don't know why we need an on mount. Return if timer interval. Oh, okay, so this is clearing the interval. If the page mounts and there's already a running interval, it cancels that out and clears it. I'm busy right now, buddy. Okay, I'll come in about 10 minutes, okay? My little 5-year-old curious. All right, let's see. So let's paste this stuff in. All right, okay. Okay, so the on mount is, I was just saying the on mount is to clear an existing timer. And that, honestly, that probably wouldn't cause any problems, although there might be some conflict over, yeah, these long running timers, but we'll go ahead and put it in anyway. Okay, so we're gonna clear the timer. I'll drop in, why does it have, so these give you a handle on the timer element and I've never seen SvelteKit written this way, where you actually define a variable that is pointing to the actual element. Maybe that's a canonical way to write SvelteKit, but it seems weird to me. really like to use like Ghostwriter or something like autocomplete engine to kind of copy my way of writing it. But we do need a timer interval because that's going to control our timer. Wait a second. Timer interval equals window.setInterval. Isn't this going to return an interval? I'm thinking that code might be wrong, but we'll find out in just a second. And then the start time is when we get started, and then the seconds that we're going to display is there. Okay. And man, I feel so slow navigating between two browser windows. Like, so, yeah. Anyway, okay, so export. I like to write my functions this way, or const update timer display equals this. Dadgummit. It loses focus sometimes, which is really annoying. It seems to be on save occasionally. It'll just randomly lose focus. There's the timer element text content, which you're setting it to be. Let's just do, instead of extracting this out to a function right away, let's start with this start timer method, and then we'll go from there. So if the timer interval so basically it's saying if we've already set a timer or the start time is set, then return. I wonder, okay. So let's go ahead and set the start time. We're just now starting it, so we'll set it to start time, date now. And then we'll initialize this timer interval with window.setInterval. And we'll pass that in an anonymous function that will get executed every time the interval elapses. So we will calculate the elapsed time by taking the date time, or the time right now when this gets called, and subtracting the start time from it. That seems reasonable. Then we'll take the seconds. And to get seconds, we'll need to divide the elapsed time by 1,000 milliseconds. And then we will update the timer display. I don't know why they pulled that out into its own method. I don't see anywhere else it's getting called, but you know what? Let timer element bind this to the timer element. Why don't we just set the seconds? Like a simpler way to do this would just be to take the span. Yeah, this is unnecessarily complicated. All right, we'll paste this in, and we'll take out the bind this, and instead we'll paste in here seconds, and that should update every time seconds gets set here. That should trigger an update there. So let's see if that works, and then we'll need a button that we can on-click start. Why did it get a handle on the start button? It doesn't use it anywhere, does it? No. So that's, yeah. Remember how I was saying this looks a little fishy to me? There's no need to get the start button at all, and to bind any variable to it. And this is where you have to be careful coding with, like, not be careful, but I mean, it's just, I guess it's not wrong, but it's definitely wasteful. There are times where it can be straight up wrong. All right, so start timer now. We've got a button. When I click it, it should run the start timer method, and then we should start seeing there we go. Sweet. That jitter on seconds is gonna drive me insane. We're gonna have to like offset that thing. But hey, this looks good. We got a timer, it's counting up. Let's add a stop button as well. Button on click, stop timer, stop. All right, autocomplete there, and we'll do it right here underneath. Const stop timer equals this. So now we want the opposite of start timer. In the case where there's no start time is not set, then we want to stop. It keeps losing focus when this thing flashes over here, which is frustrating. So if timer interval, sorry, we want to say if not timer interval and not start time. Little De Morgan's law there, flip a. So then we want to return stop losing focus. It keeps losing focus, bouncing me out of my edit mode when this page refreshes over here. It makes me want to like move this to a separate. I guess I could move this to a separate window and close the web view. Maybe that would stop it from. There we go. Losing focus. Let's see. And then I don't need this pane at all. There we go. Okay, cool. Let's see if that works. Then I can start or start. Okay, cool. We don't have stop yet. Let me refresh the page. And then I might just bring up the console down here. Okay, so stop says if there's no thing, then don't do it. And how would we go about stopping the timer? So we need to say probably clear interval timer interval. Probably be the way to stop it, but we also want to preserve our, well, seconds is going to get preserved and start time doesn't need to be reset. Well, start time does need to be reset because of this code here. I don't like this, the way this is written. I'm just going to say if there's already a timer interval, then and what we should probably do is, like, from a UX perspective in the future, we should probably gray out this start button entirely when there's an actual running timer. But here we go, start, stop. Oh, do we want start to resume the time? Okay, cool. So it actually did start and stop successfully. Woohoo! So we've got our, let's go over to our checklist. Timer on the screen, counting up from 0, check. Start the timer when we click a button, check. Stop the timer when we click another button, check. All right, now play a sound when the timer hits a certain point. So I was about to jump into like making stop turn into resume and all that kind of stuff. And while that is a fun idea, we should follow our checklist. That's why we wrote it to begin with. So let's ask ChatGPT, how can I use JavaScript to play a sound in the browser? I don't know if I've done this in a while. I'm trying to remember the last time I would have done this. The web audio API or the HTML5 audio element to play a sound. Oh boy, it's going to give me 2 examples. I'm getting tired of waiting on GPT-4. I think I'm going to stop generating and switch over to a new chat in GPT 3.5. It's actually really good, y'all. And it is very fast. And I think the timer, the speed there is actually going to really help. So let's see. I'd like an example of playing a sound in a browser using JavaScript. Similarly, much faster. While I'm doing that, supposedly Ghostwriter would help me with this, right? All right, so we're bringing up Ghostwriter, and I could ask, same thing. I'd like an example of using JavaScript to play a sound in the browser. Can use the audio object. Audio. Okay. Const sound equals new. Let's play with that real quick. Audio, is that like a thing? Oh, but I have to have an MP3 with a path to your sound file. Yeah, that's the same thing that GPT-3 says, basically. It gives me a more complete example with like a button to click and a function to play. All right, let's see. Oh, dadgummit. My timer went off. Okay. That was the end of our second 25-minute work block. So at this point, we now have a working timer app that you can hit start, you can hit stop on, and it shows the timer in the browser. Our 4 Pomodoros are an hour into our 2-hour-long work session. So I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break, and I'll be back in 5, and we will pick up where we were with our timer, and we'll hopefully get sound playing in the browser when the timer hits certain points. So see you guys in 5 minutes. Okay, hey folks, welcome back to Coding with Jess. We're 2 sessions, 2 Pomodoros into our 4 Pomodoros today, so we're about an hour of the way through our 2-hour working session, where we're working on building a little timer app inside of Replit using SvelteKit and TypeScript and GPT 3.5 and Ghostwriter and all the things. Welcome, and without further ado, let's jump right into our next session. So 25 minutes on the clock. Let's see where we can get to next. So far where we're at is we have a simple timer app that we built inside the Replit IDE over here. And you can click start to start it. You can click stop to stop it. And yeah, it's just a really simple timer. What we want to get to next, we've got our little checklist over here, is we want to be able to play a sound when the timer hits a certain point. Now this is like an important feature for the thing that we're building, because we're building a multi-timer where you're actually setting several different intervals at which you would like to get some kind of sound effect or reminder. So I was thinking about the next thing we need to do, according to both Ghostwriter and GPT 3.5 over here, is get a local MP3 file that we can cause the audio API to play that MP3 file. So I was going to go do some Googling to like find free MP3s of timers and stuff like that. And then I realized, like, why do that when I can record one? So I'm in QuickTime Player. I'm going to hit new audio recording real quick. And I have a fancy microphone over here. And I'm going to set this thing on the desktop here to Blue Audio USB. And we'll just record a sound real quick. So maybe like something like this. All right, so I'm going to try and get it like right at the beginning of the sound effect so that like when we hear the sound effect, and actually I guess we can use QuickTime to trim as well. I'm telling it to delete. That was weird. Looks like QuickTime's hung in a weird state here. Ah, okay. Delete. There we go. File new audio recording. All right, let's do this again. Yeah, we're on the right mic, so we'll go say. Yeah, there we go. Now we have a nice little click. I wonder if trimming does work. It sure does. Heck yeah, check that out. Can trim that right there. I think it's fine in terms of length. Actually, let's make it shorter. Actually, let's make it a lot shorter. Nice. All right. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I've never tried routing my audio through OBS, so you guys may not be able to hear it, but all right, sounds good. The weird thing I'm noticing is that like it seems to be different volumes based on I don't know. Maybe it's just a trick of my ears. All right, so we're gonna save this. Actually, I want to export as, I think QuickTime has a MP3 export. M4A export. That may not be supported by the audio thing. We might have to do a quick conversion, but that's fine. Let's see, documents. Oh, weird. Okay, I'm not coding locally. I'm coding in a browser, so I need to get this file to the internets somehow. So let's see. We'll call this ticksound.m4a and delete that because I don't need that original copy. Let's just try an M4A. I mean, we can ask, I guess. Does the audio API support M4A files as well as MP3? And I suppose the fastest way to, oops, I should have hit return there. Fastest way to actually get this answer would just be go to MDN audio. The MDN docs are like actually really freaking good. And so, yeah, I could come in here and search for MP3. Browsers don't support all the same file types. BAM file types. Let's see how fast this thing is answered. Yes, the audio API supports M4A files. Perfect. So even when you have great docs like MDN's docs, which are freaking phenomenal, a chat interface is still just faster. Like, it's just faster. Oh, what's up, Paul? Paul is a friend who's working on a great app called Cosmic that you guys should go check out. That's just joined the chat. Glad you're tagging along, Paul. All right, so we've got our file that we want to get uploaded here, and I think that'll need to go in static for the sake, and let me see, if I click add file, yeah, how am I going to do this exactly? I want to upload a file, not add in, there we go, upload file. Boom. I knew it had to be somewhere here. All right, so desktop, there's our tick sound. It added it there, so we'll drag and drop it into the static folder. Great, now we got a tick sound. If I go to our Replit here, and I go to /ticksound.m4a, there it is, that beautiful ticking. And that may not be enough. We may want to do something more than the tick, but we can always replace it later. All right, so now we're back at the point where we've got our timer running, and what happens is set interval gets run every, what do we see in here? Set interval is run, oh, whatever the default is. I didn't give set interval a, what's the default interval for set interval? We'll ask ChatGPT. 10 milliseconds. So that's why we're seeing it like go so fast. Yep, which is fine, I guess. It's all good. So then, okay, so this is, Juan says 0. Pretty sure it's not 0. Because your entire CPU would be devoted to like running this interval over and over again. But 10 milliseconds is pretty dang fast. I mean, look at this. Look how fast that's going. Yeah, I mean, it's got to have some interval, right, Juan? I mean, like, whether it's like 1 millisecond or 0.1 milliseconds, it has to have some like interval in which it can run. And set interval, like, it's running in your browser's, what's it called? Like render loop or whatever, your browser's action loop. So when browser performance gets really tight and your browser's working really hard, it might actually push out that set interval execution so that it doesn't execute at exactly whatever the interval is, which is what GPT was trying to warn me about earlier, of like, hey, it's not really exact. So the way that this is working is actually more precise in the sense that we like calculate the elapsed time every single time, which was also a GPT suggestion. Okay, so the funky thing about this is we're gonna do this the jank way the first time. So this is a windowing problem, which is like one of my favorite problems, favorite kinds of problems. There will be a point in time, and I'll illustrate on the board real quick because it's so fun. Where is my whiteboard marker? Here it is. All right, so we're basically gonna be going along like this is our timeline, and then here is a timer that we want to go off, and we'll want to play the sound at when we get past this timer. And so we're going to be checking an interval here, and then checking an interval here, and checking an interval here, and then checking an interval here, and then continuing to check intervals, right, after that. And so only this particular check interval do we want to play the timer. Now, the naive version of this that would totally not work is you would try to set a timer. Let's say that this is the timer for 45 seconds. You would try to say, every time we do set interval, let's see if it's exactly equal 45 seconds, like current time. And this will not work. Like you'll end up at like 45.01 or whatever. And then the next time after that will be like 45.02, or sorry, 44.99 or whatever. 44.99 and then 45.02, and so you were never exactly 45 seconds. And so what you need is the very first time you check the interval after the interval has passed, after that time has passed, play a sound that time, but never again after that, right? Like we don't want to, we don't want to keep playing it later. Otherwise we'll have some real problems. So what we'll need is some sort of Boolean that says we have played the sound, and once we play the sound, we pass that timer, we then we'll then like set that Boolean to true, we're done playing it, and then you won't check it anymore. And so we're gonna start with a simple, like I said, brain dead solution here of like, let first timer played equals false. And let me clean up some of this stuff. I really need my prettier config in here. I wonder, I'm pretty sure prettier works well with this too. All right, so let's see. It looks like the stream is a little bit delayed. Oh, that's funny. Juan says it's actually 0 according to DN. I just saw your comment, Juan. Yeah, so GPT be wrong. That would not be the first time. All right, so here we go. Then the we have our first time played is false. And now every time we check the interval window here, which is running this function, we update the seconds. And what we want to do is check whether the seconds is past. Yeah, hallucination for the win, for real. But how does that make sense? 0. Like, it kind of makes me want to pass 10 here, just to have there be some first timer time. All right, so we need first timer played, and we also need the first timer time. First timer time in seconds. Always throw units on things. Not always, but many times. It's a good idea. All right, so then what we want to do is do seconds. Whoops. If seconds is greater than first time in seconds, actually, before we can short circuit this, if not first timer played, and that then let's see, what was the audio? I'll try Ghostwriter's version here. Const sound equals that, and play it. So we'll paste that in. And we'll want this to be, what was it? Tick? Now I forget what I named my own thing. Guess I can bring it up over here. Tick sound. I was right. My instinct was right. Close that. Tick sound.m4a. So if not first timer played and seconds is more, then play the sound and update first timer played to be true, so we don't play it again. Cut those silly semicolons at the end there. All right, maybe I should set it for less than 45. Let's do it like 5 seconds. That way we don't have to wait as long. All right, so start. All right, listening. Awesome, we got a click. All right, that is strangely satisfying. I don't know why I haven't made the browser play all sorts of sounds for me. I guarantee it, like my my apps are gonna get a whole lot of sounds next, now that I've done that once. All right, cool. So it works. So we have now, we're making good progress here. Whoops, trying to go over to Obsidian. Play a sound when the timer hits a certain point. We just did that. So what do we want to work on next? Well, we talked about the app. We're building a multi-timer, and so the idea is that you'd use it for coffee and other things where you want multiple times to like be notified of something within a single flow. So you pour coffee, you wait 45 seconds, it clicks, you pour coffee again, you wait another minute, you click, you pour coffee again. And so ideally what we'd like to do is create a stack of timers that each kind of stacks on top of each other. And then it would be for each one of those timers, you would play a sound and keep track of whether you need to play a sound again. So a couple of different things we need to work on there, which is we need a user interface for creating multiple timers. Or create, so let's just say create a new timer. And then also remove an existing timer, maybe change the time of an existing timer. SvelteKit's going to allow us some pretty nice ways to do this. We're probably going to be able to just like embed this in the UI for now. So let's see. Over here to our Replit UI. So we've got this. One thing I want to do is class inline. One thing I miss in this Replit UI that was really handy in, oh, these are already inline. What am I doing? Is Tailwind auto-completions. Really, having the Tailwind style auto-completions is just really freaking handy. Let's adding some X border there and give these guys a little bit of color background, especially things like Slate 100 and that kind of stuff. Like knowing what all the colors are that are customized in Tailwind is really handy. Let's do like Slate 300. Cool. All right, so we've got a little bit of differentiation there. We've got our timer running, and then let's make this one like really big. Oh, right. Yeah, you can't put a block element inside of a paragraph. Don't try that at home, kids. Span. And just styling this up a little bit to make it a little bit easier to look at. The timer. You don't need another thing that says timer when you've got a giant thing that says multi-timer. And we've got seconds underneath it. Let's make this like text 3XL. And all right, now when I click start, cool. Looking a little better. Oh, thank you for letting me know. Not sharing my screen. Hey, we're back. Screen. Have it. All right. This is why people in the chat are very helpful. And it would, it wouldn't be my first time back live streaming after 3 months if I didn't forget to switch back to sharing screen once. All right, there we go. Okay, cool. Well, the big reveal is there's the updated UI. We can refresh. Click start, stop. And then what we'll do next is let's put under here these timers, and we'll do an each timer in timers. Is it in? I forget. Whoa, why did the console come up? I must have hit something. All right, there we go. Oh, as, that's right. It's like each as, I think. And then we'll want a const timers equals an array for now. That should make it work, hopefully. Error while pre-processing. The constant timers must be initialized. It is. I just initialized it right there. Refresh. Boom. There we go. Cool. Okay, so then we're going to want some interface called timer. So timer is going to be a elapsed time, which will be a number, and a elapsed, which will be a Boolean. We'll just call it time and that. And so we'll make this an array of timers. And then we can show for each one of these, let's see, time 10 elapsed false. Let me go refresh this. Oh, what is it not liking? Expected. Where am I missing an open close thing here? Do I need like a define or something? There you go. We'll turn it into a type. I must be missing some keyword with interface there. but the Boolean, sorry, the Replit UI was really not helping me out much. All right, so now in here, we'll want to say timer.time, span, and timer.elapsed. Cool. All right, cool. So now we have like a quick UI to show different timers. So let's try this. Let's try, maybe we'll just for each timer put an input. Input type equals text here, and then make the value equal to timer.time. And change that in tag to be an input. Alrighty, and then get rid of time elapsed. We don't need that. Element cannot have children. Input is a void element. That is true. There we go. Cool, nice. All right. And then class equals, let's give it some border and background slate 300. All right, there we go. There's a timer. And if I change the timer, that will, I think I need to do like a bind here. I would really appreciate I wonder if there's a plugin in, or an extension for Replit that would give me like SvelteKit handiness here. Extension store. Extension store. There's an entire extension store. Oh, where's the thing? How do I even search in here? Looks like there's 3 options and I can't search. Extension settings. I also can't make that drop down. Maybe because I don't have any installed. Suggest an extension idea. Customize Replit. I'd love to do that. Whoops. Uh-oh. And then you accidentally close your Replit. Way to go. Go back. And let's see here. All right, close. So yeah, that would be really nice to actually have the proper like bindings for what I'm looking for here is when I'm typing in, I'm looking for SvelteKit like autocomplete stuff. So I don't remember exactly what the bind is here thing that I want to do, but I know that I need to bind the value of this input box to the timer. And that would allow whenever the timer changes, or whenever we change the time, it automatically changes it in the array. But I don't remember how to do that without some kind of autocomplete or thing here, but you don't get that in Replit, which is a little frustrating. Let me see, I guess I could go ask Ghostwriter. You gonna help me out here, Ghostwriter? How do I bind the value of an input box in a text input in Svelte to a variable? Okay, it's just bind colon value. That's more or less helpful. Let me close that, close that. All right, so then bind value, just throw the bind in front of that value, and then that should update the timer's time. And then now all we need is like the ability to add a button, add timer, and then we'll do this as an on click equals add new timer. And up here we'll add a function, const add new timer equals that funky arrow notation. And then we'll say timers dot push equals, oh, sorry, push a time 1,000 elapsed false. All right, let's see what happens there. Oh, bummer. Console. Okay, our timer elapsed. Working on a timer app while our timers are elapsing. Cool, I'm just gonna try this one thing real quick. There we goes, our list of timers. So they're getting added, but more are not getting added down here. Oh, I remember there's a thing where I need to say timers equals timers. And this needs to be let. There's like a, there it is. Aha! Sweet. Now we have the ability to add multiple timers. Rock on. All right. Cool. So we are, this time has flown by. I can't believe we're already at the end of session 3 of 4. So we're an hour and a half into this working block. We have a multi-timer app that's actually working pretty well already. We might finish this today in the next session. So I'm going to take a 5-minute break. We'll be back in 5 and take one more 25-minute block to try and finish our little multi-timer app. And yeah, it's been a pretty productive time. Hopefully I'll see you in a few minutes. All right, hey folks, we're back for our last Pomodoro of this session of Coding with Jess. It means we have another 25 minutes of work in front of us to hit our 25 or our 2 hour block. So we're diving back into working on our multi-timer app and go ahead and start our next 25-minute session, and we'll wrap it up from there. All right, so far, just a reminder of where we've been. We've been using Replit and GPT-3 and some other fun toys to build this multi-timer app, which allows us to set timers at various intervals to play a sound and that I'm specifically going to use it to brew coffee, but it could be used for a lot of different things, really. So, but we've made a lot of progress in a short amount of time. So we're actually close to the point where this is like shippable, usable app, and we're only 90 minutes in. So, I'd say things are going well, in spite of like losing some time up front in configuring Replit. So, cool. Like, let's see. So where we're at right now, got my little checklist over here. We want to be able to create a new timer, remove an existing timer. So we can create timers now, which is great. Removing existing timers should be pretty straightforward too. So let's put that in real quick. And then updating the time of an existing timer would be, I think that's already by default done. But let's try this out. Let's see. Actually, let's have it play a sound when any timer expires. Let's do that first before we do remove an existing timer, and then we can also see if update is working. Let's see. There's that. Alrighty. Cool. Okay, so right now we've got add timer over here alongside all of these things. Let's make it a block element so that it bumps down to the next line. There it did. And then, oh, our timers are going to disappear every single time we refresh, which is going to be kind of annoying, but that'll be okay. And then, all right, so before we do remove, we're going to make it actually play the sound when the timers go off. So let's go ahead and delete our first timer and first timer played in seconds. And now what we'll need to do, this is where like having an integrated code assistant in the file itself would be super helpful. I wonder if, can I have Ghostwriter do the thing in the file? Like Command K, like generate code, yeah, Option G. So let's see, I'm going to describe in words what I want, and then we'll see how well it does. Check the timers array for timers that are not yet expired. If one of the timers is less than seconds, play a sound and mark as expired. All right, and it said Option G was oh, there's my prompt right there. Okay, let me kind of just copy and then say Option G, yes, generate. It appears to be blank, sir. Why do you not have any content in you? Yeah, this is not helping me because I don't see any. Generate. Yo. I just took out the comment markers and hit generate again. Let's see if that does anything better. Generation appears to be frozen. All right, I'll give you one more try, Ghostwriter. Boom, and I will even take out the comment slashes for you in case you were confused by them. Boop, generate. Is there like a bug happening? No. Yep, I think we're gonna have to pass on that. All right, so Wonder what happens if I paste that into GPT-3. All right, so what we're gonna do though, we'll go and do it ourselves. So we'll need to say timers.filter where no, I guess we can do a for each timer. Does next or continue work in this setting? I can't remember. Continue if timer dot time, or no, if timer dot expired, is that what the variable is? I really would appreciate autocomplete right now. Elapsed. If timer is elapsed, then return. And timer's not elapsed. Okay, so then we can just take this exact code. Boop. And we just say if seconds is greater than timer.time, do that and set timer.elapsed to true. All right, that should do it, I think. We're going to find out in a second here. Let's set this for 1 second and hit start. There we go. Nice. All right, it's working. Cool. So yeah, we can like add a bunch of timers. 1, 2. Ooh, a simple UI trick I'd like is like every time I add a timer, I want it to like auto select. All right, here we go. Ready? Here's click, 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 click. Nice, we've coded a metronome. Here we go. All right. So yeah, it's working. Let's stop the timer and yeah, play a sound when anytime it expires. Done. Let's remove an existing timer. That should be pretty quick to do as well. That will be a button. It says remove timer. And on click, remove timer. And we're going to need a how are we going to identify the timer without some sort of ID? Yeah, there's no good way to do it unless we have an ID that we can remove the timer from. I guess we can do the index. Yeah, do the index. That's not bad. So then timer as timer. I think the way this works is index gives it to you and remove timer index console log index. Let's see if that works. Alrighty. We're gonna want some kind of wrapping here, so let's just put in a BR. Is it too wide? Is that the problem? Yeah, that was what it was. Okay, cool. So now when I add timers, they all show up the same place. Great. Okay, cool. And what else am I logging here? Let's get rid of that log statement and clear this out. All right, so now we've got one timer. I'm adding another one. Where is that console log statement happening? I mean, that could be the... Oh, because it's getting called. Right, yes, duh, because I need this to... This needs to not get executed. It's just a reference to the onClick. But I won't, dang it. But how do I get the index into the method that I'm calling it on? A little bit of a brain bender. But that should now, when I refresh the page, I should get no. Yes, awesome. All right, and then when I click remove timer. Oh, all right. So I get an event. I could take the event here and do event.target dot get attribute or get adder. What's the... And then we could set the data attribute index equals index. Why is there no autocomplete on like standard data attribute index? All right. And then remove timer, add timer, add timer, add timer. Hey, it works. Cool. Okay, and then, so that was getting the right thing there. So then we'll want to do timers dot, I want to remove a specific item from an array at, all right. In JavaScript, how do I remove? This is where Copilot would have written this code for me already. Like, I wouldn't be bouncing over to another UI to do it. Like, it can infer from the context exactly what I want to do here and write it before I even have chance to form the question. And that's something I've definitely gotten used to with Copilot over the last several months, and is hard to give up moving to like coding in the browser with Replit. In JavaScript, how do I remove a specific item from an array by index? So it looks like splice is the magic. Timers equals timers dot splice out that one. Remove the item at index 2. All right, let's see if that works for us. Add timer, make this one 1001. Remove timer, boom. Oh, right, yes, the thing we deleted was needed. Const index equals that. There we go. Now add some timers. Boom, boom, boom. Make this 1001. Click remove timer, and it removes all of them. What the? I'm going to assume that this thing is hallucinating. Ugh. MDN splice array. Wait, what? Splice 10 Feb. Oh, it is in place. Okay. Oh, so that could have been, actually that could have been correct. Let's try that again. And actually now that I see that code, the item at index 1, maybe it's index -1 here. No, the delete count. Okay, we do want to delete just one. All right, let's try it again. Add timer, add timer, add timer, add timer. 1010, remove, no go. this says it's in place, but oh right, we have to do the timers equals timers thing. Timers equals timers to get SvelteKit to pick up the change. All right, add timer, add timer, add timer, add timer, add timer. Blah blah blah. Actually, it has to be a number, so I'll leave that alone. 1100. Remove timer. There we go. Yes. All right, cool. So removing timers works. Let's do this. Let's set this one for 1 second, this one for 4 seconds, 9 seconds, 10 seconds, and then hit start. All right, I'm going to remove the timer while it's going. No sound at 4 seconds. Should get a sound at 9 seconds. Great. And no sound at 10 seconds. Great. So you can like remove and add timers. Maybe we don't want to do that, like allow you to remove and add timers while, but the point is it's checking the timer array even as we're dynamically updating it. Money. Okay, we got 9 minutes left. We have a completely and totally working multi-timer app that does what we want to do. Tempted to just like go design nuts on this thing and make it pretty. Yeah, because this does what we wanted. I'm trying to think if there's, oh, the one thing it doesn't do. Let's go back to our features list here. We want each set multiple timers that build on each other. Check. Each timer goes off, we should get some audio. Check. Remember my settings on a device. We have not done yet. And then very quick to go from zero to starting a timer, which we can deal with maybe next time. Yeah, let's do that. Let's make it quick to go from, all right, I'm gonna do let's do some really quick styling here just to make it a little nicer. Let's see, we'll make this remove button red, BG red 200 or something. And give a little bit of padding around it, and let's give the whole thing some padding. Layout. Goodness. All right. Div class padding 3. There we go. Cool. So that bumps things away from the edges a little bit. Gosh darn it. I want to close things by hitting Command W. All right, page svelte. Alrighty. So we made that look a little nicer, and then yeah, add timer. So we were gonna make that a button with a little bit of panache. Again, Ghostwriter, or sorry, Copilot would have already jumped to the rescue here and suggested styles as soon as I started typing, which would have been nice. Margin top 3. Whoa. What? What did I do here? Attributes need to be unique. Is that referring to the data attribute? Like what? No, it appears to be referring to the button class. Very strange. Let's see, it starts out with one timer at, what did that just change? All right, let me delete that button entirely. Okay. I've never seen that before. Class. Oh, I see. 2 class blocks. Yes. And again, syntax highlighting should have caught that in the browser. I mean, in the IDE. There should have been like that second class thing should have been underlined instead of me having to find out over here. Yep. Let's give these inputs a little bit of inside padding. There we go. And great. We've got add timer, we've got remove timers. And margin top 3, give a little spacing there. Can't remember how that works. Is it bold, strong, heavy? I never remember the Tailwind font weight modifiers. Oh well. Good enough. Okay, so we can add timers and then remove them. We can start and stop. We cannot resume yet, so we may want to fix the resume problem. Man, this has gone so well. It's really cool. But we do want to remember the settings on the device. So what do we do there? I think we're going to do IndexedDB. I've used on another project, I think it was Dexy, which wraps IndexedDB, and made working with IndexedDB pretty nice. So yeah, let's go over here and let's see. I'll try to use their package installer thing. Packages, Dexy, install. And then I remember there was like Dexy. Actually, let's go ask our friendly. We got 3 minutes left. We are running out of time. You show me an example of writing an array, of saving an array to Dexy or to IndexedDB using Dexy in a SvelteKit app. Return, and Ghostwriter, same question for you. Sure, here's an example. All right. So define the database. Where would I do that? On mount, maybe? There's the import. I should have mentioned that it's a TypeScript app. The type that I want to save to the database is where is it? Well, guys, I think we're gonna run out of time here. Coming up on the end. Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to call it here. One of the things that I am inclined to do right now is actually go and git add dot and git commit all to a Git repo, but I don't have a Git repo. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with me on Coding with Jess today. We were working on this multi-timer app using Replit, SvelteKit, TypeScript, playing with GPT-3, using Replit's built-in Ghostwriter AI as well. And all in all, I'll say it went pretty well. There were definitely moments that felt very frustrating. Mainly the fact that like the Replit IDE lives inside of a browser. Like the things that I would expect to be able to do within an IDE interface, like changing between tabs by hitting Command Shift, basically all the operating system level keyboard shortcuts that I'm used to having inside of a proper desktop Mac app. You don't have access to in Replit because they are relegated to the browser itself. Now, Replit overrides some of them, but a lot of them are like the browser itself has taken those over. You don't get those. So today was my first time using Replit seriously beyond just like firing up a quick Replit for a few seconds and I definitely felt clumsy. But a lot of that's me getting used to a new development environment. Is not a quick process. Like it takes time to get good at your tools. But I'll admit, like one of the biggest things I was missing was that inline code completion from that I've gotten used to with Copilot, where it is just intuiting what I want to write next, and little junior programmers like tugging at my shirt saying, "Hey, I've got some code for you. I've got some code for you." I really appreciate that. And a couple of other things that were just some ergonomic things in Replit that were confusing or frustrating was like the lack of code intelligence that you get in VS Code, especially around the APIs. I don't have all the flipping APIs memorized in my head of like JavaScript array and how TypeScript things work. And so like not having those intelligent hints drop into the UI or the IDE as I'm typing, I realized that I've really come to rely on those more than I had thought that I would. But all those things are fixable. It was pretty amazing to be able to like jump into an app, build an app in a short amount of time, and hey, it's deployed on the internet and actually has like a URL by default, right? I don't have to go, one thing I don't have to go do right now is I don't have to go deploy to Vercel. Like the app is already up and running in a REPL that I can now share the link to, and that's pretty cool. So there's some trade-offs here I can definitely see, and I'm very curious to see where Replit goes with this in terms of kind of marrying the best of both worlds. How could I have all the ergonomics of that I'm used to in my editor, while also exploring some of the things that an always-on REPL that is sort of live editing in production. I'm curious where they can kind of push on that paradigm as well. So we'll be back next week for more Coding with Jess. Maybe working on this app, or we might be working on another production app that I've got an idea for that involves some crazy fun stuff that I'll talk more about later. But anyway, same time, same place next week, live streaming Coding on the Internet. Thanks for joining. See you later.